No, this isn't a Toyota RAV4, but you'd be forgiven for thinking it is, because this is the first car to come as a result of the Toyota and Suzuki brand collaboration, and it's called the Suzuki Across. Now, unlike some brand alliances where they share bits and pieces with each other from different models, this is essentially a carbon copy of the RAV4, albeit for a slightly reworked exterior design, mainly at its front end with the wider grille and snout-like badge. Grr. But the main reason we're driving this today is because it's a four-wheel drive plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, or PHEV for fans of brevity, and it claims an all-electric range of 46 miles, which pretty much blows everyone out of the water, and Suzuki's pretty proud of that as well. They even include a little table in the press pack to remind us. Oh, and before we climb in, I just want to say that this Suzuki has a Toyota price tag, as it starts from 45.5 grand. Just let that simmer a bit. Right, that'll do. So, as it's heavily based on the RAV4, it makes sense that the interior is very RAV4 as well, which is to say it's solid, high quality, well screwed together, and, well, it's a bit bland and boring, which is a shame really, because if you close your eyes, it does feel fitting of its 45k price tag, but, you know, a bit of beige here and some added chrome wouldn't go amiss. I mean, I'm by no means a designer, but I'm not a goth either, so, you know, a bit of colour would have been nice. Anyway, aside from that, there is quite a bit of kit on offer in the Across. There's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, there's a reversing camera, there's tons of safety kit like lane keep assist, you get heated seats in the front and the back, and yet you don't get sat-nav. Why? I don't know. I mean, it's available in the RAV4, but it's not available in here. I mean, there's even a map button that doesn't really do anything. Maybe it's Toyota's way of getting the upper hand, I don't know. And this 9-inch touchscreen feels a bit dated and laggy too. It merely houses features as opposed to offering anything intuitive or, dare I say it, entertaining. And you know what? The furthest buttons on the screen can be a bit difficult to reach too. Maybe it's just my small arms. But you know what? It sounds like I'm ripping it to bits in here. Once you actually start living with it, it is a really nice place to spend time, if you can excuse its lack of flair. I mean, everything's just really ergonomically laid out. You've got a really clear aircon readout here. The different driving modes to select are really nicely laid out down here. And the digital instrument cluster behind the steering wheel, while a little overwhelming at first, does have tons of useful information, including the likes of electric range, which we'll come back to later. These aircon controls and knobs up here have a satisfyingly smooth action to them as well, and I like the subtle, rugged 4x4 rubber trim on them, and I love the fact that they've incorporated it into the door handle as well. Overall, practicality in here is really impressive. There's a few little shelves dotted around for convenience, some storage here. You've also got loads of storage under the armrest, proper cup holders which hold your coffee in place securely, decent sized door bins, and a very usable glove box. Now, jump in, and the Across feels massive. I mean, there's tons of headroom, loads of leg room, and you can even put your feet under the seat in front. And these seats actually recline slightly to give a lounge-like experience. I mean, it really does feel noticeably back here. Now, these seats, although they do recline, don't slide back and forth, but to be honest, that's irrelevant given the tons of leg room and boot space you get. Now, back here you also get a fold down armrest with 2 cup holders, and you get 2 USB charging ports down here too. And while there is quite a big transmission tunnel in the middle there, it's so flat it's actually not that hard to maneuver, and it's quite comfortable to put your feet on when you're sat in the middle seat. Now, the one criticism of the rear seats I've got is that these door bins are a bit small, but to be honest, I'm more than willing to forgive that. The boot is just as spacious with 500 litres, and I just like how there's no messing around with it. There's a nice wide opening, well, the load lip's pretty much non-existent. There's a nice square load bed, and you've got tether points there as well. It's quite Jeep or Land Rover-esque in that respect. You can really load up to your heart's content. Now, there isn't any underfloor storage, unfortunately, because you've got a full-size spare there, and there is a slight hump, ever so slightly, there in the floor, which I'm assuming is because of the battery and hybrid stuff underneath. Now, those seats do fold down almost completely flat, which makes loading longer objects very easy to do. Word of warning, however, be prepared for how loud they are when you fold them back up, especially if you've got neighbours that you like and you're doing it early morning. Right, a lot to get through here, so let's just rifle through some important facts first. So there's a 175 horsepower 2.5 litre petrol engine under the bonnet. There's a 180 horsepower electric motor at the front wheels, a 54 horsepower electric motor at the back wheels, and an onboard 18.1 kilowatt per hour battery. Now, all things considered, you're looking at a total power output of 306 horsepower. Now that makes for a 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint time of just 6 seconds, which for a 2-ton 4x4 is a bit mad. But what does all that mean in the context of plug-in hybrids? Well, you essentially get 4 different driving modes. There's EV mode, which is all electric. There's HV mode, which predominantly uses the petrol engine, but also a bit of electric power, like a regular hybrid. Then there's Auto EV/HV mode, which flips between those 2 aforementioned modes, but predominantly uses EV mode unless you absolutely floor it. And then lastly, there's battery charger mode, which uses just the petrol engine to recoup battery power. Now, all in, Suzuki claims that you should be able to get a full electric range, when fully charged, of 46 miles. Now, I've found that to be pretty bang on, to be honest, as long as you drive appropriately. But the thing I've been most impressed with is the battery recharger mode. Now, in a lot of plug-in hybrids, this doesn't really work like it's supposed to. But in the Across, I've actually found myself on several journeys now, recouping whatever mileage I'm losing in EV mode over the same amount of mileage in the battery recharger mode. So if I've got 10 miles of electric range on the clock and I head to the shops and then head back in battery recharger mode, I end up getting back with around 10 miles of electric range on the clock. So with that, you then start thinking, okay, am I actually ever gonna have to plug the Across in and charge it? And that's what you wanna hear. If you do have to recharge it, however, from flat, it will take around 6 hours from a standard 3-pin socket. Now, when it comes to tax, on paper, the Across claims a combined 282 miles per gallon, which is likely to be around 50 miles per gallon if you're lazy and don't plug it in. It also claims CO2 of just 22 grams per kilometre, so with that, you're looking at just a 7% BAK tax bracket for 2021 and 2022. But aside to all that, what's it actually like to drive? Well, it's lovely. I mean, it can be a little bit clunky over some bumps, probably due to its weight, and the average driver probably won't even notice it. And the steering, while it is on the lighter side, I think it's pretty well weighted. It's very, very easy to drive. I mean, okay, it's not fun, but I don't care, and I don't think a lot of people will. Now, there are a few small issues I have, one being the chunky C-pillars, which make rear visibility a bit difficult at times, and the other being this CVT automatic gearbox. Now, when you just shift it here, when you're in engine only mode, it's just really loud and harsh, and shifting up the gears requires a bit of patience. So what's our verdict on the Across? Well, as a plug-in hybrid, it hits all the right notes, absolutely. And if you've got a sub 46 mile commute to work, happy days. I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed driving it over the last week or so. It's really relaxing and quiet, especially when in EV mode, and I've really enjoyed playing around with the recharge mode and trying to charge it as little as possible. But if you were to see this beside a RAV4 on the forecourt, you'll probably go with the Toyota because of brand prestige and Toyota's enhanced warranty. And if there just so happens to be a similarly priced Range Rover Evoque PHEV nearby, it's like, meh. Like I said, as a standalone hybrid, it is spot on. But the Across's slightly lackluster interior and high price tag just put it in a bit of an awkward grey area.